This is part two, more to come. Um, so we knew um, that all of it, the Republicans who voted for Trump knew what they were doing. Yeah, they didn't. They voted for a Republican, and for them it may have been about abortion. For them it may have been about inflation and economic pain, because we now know from economic statistics that the pain that they voted against had started, um, in October, November. And we know that the Democrats, because they probably don't know economics as well as they think they do, um, weren't able to link the tax cuts to the economy. And we're going to get more. We're going to keep those tax cuts, so the economy is going to stay exactly the way it is in favor of the bosses. Um, it's going to take some clear communication to let people know that. Um, I don't know that the Democrats have it in them. They're not listening to me so far, but maybe they are. I don't know. But give me. I've got a microphone. Like, share. If you're willing to accept that giving tax cuts to the rich is going to have them um, cut back on jobs, raise prices, because the CEO class is getting even more money than they would otherwise get, so they have an incentive to screw over workers and customers and stockholders. That's what the tax law did, essentially. It was for the business owners and against everybody else. And, that resulted in inflation. As prices chase the top 10%, and people who in the top 10% getting the money get a benefit from the tax law. So it's the Democrats didn't make a case for what the economy is. They don't think some of them don't even know, because that would be almost Marxist. No, it's forbidden knowledge. It's just Keynesianism. But they didn't say. So the voters were uninformed. And, low information voters didn't think that they would fire the fire employees, or maybe they did. That's the scary part. People may know that that Trump is going to, shut down government, kill regulations, get rid of energy and education, even though they didn't know what was being done by those. But it's in a marketplace of elections. Nobody went forward and said what the truth was, with a believable enough story for the Republicans to listen. Now the Republicans know. Republican voters know exactly what they believe in, even if they didn't vote for anybody who voted for Trump doesn't usually vote, should know. I'm telling you now, everything he's done was known to what he was telegraphed in the election. The people who continued with him in the Republican Party knew what he was going to do. He said everything he's doing now, he said he was going to do. So the assumption of the Democratic assumption, the small d Democrat, the governing assumption is that people meant what they said by voting for Donald Trump. So although, the procedural violations probably going to stop a lot of the stuff he's doing, which, it's the rule of law versus democracy. People say it's the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. Democracy is, whatever if the people vote for a candidate, that's what has to be done. The rule of law is that, there are certain laws about what can be done, and will stop somebody from walking all over those laws. So, there's a tension there. It's a desirable tension, and the tension is, will be strained, or will be showing up over the next couple of years. It's going to be interesting. Over the next year, actually the next few months. How much is And where that's urgent. Why I'm making this video is Ukraine. That the people of the United States pretty much believe in Ukraine, but the key people in the Republican Party, the ones who make the most noise and the ones who were put in charge, the ones who moderate Republicans fear the most, don't like Ukraine. For them, it's another it's a Soviet state, and a Soviet state having a little thing about, in the Iron Curtain, behind the Iron Curtain, they're having a war, and yeah, I mean, we know that people should know. And I had somebody who voted for Trump say, no, he was not a Russian asset. Yes, Trump was a Russian asset. If you're a Republican and you didn't think Trump was a Russian asset, you were not paying attention. And a lot of those people thought that, again, abortion was more important than foreign policy. They voted for Trump because of Dobbs. They wanted Dobbs. They got Dobbs. There's no constitutional right to abortion. There wasn't anyway. There's a constitutional right to be born, and if you're viable to be born, and the Center for Reproductive Rights and the ACLU in their case, didn't say that that's what viability meant. That if somebody can be born, then they're viable, and they're viable. That means that they are protected with citizenship rights. They didn't say it because it was against their position. Well, their position just gave us Dobbs. Because they could have said it. They knew. They didn't say it. That they were asked. They didn't want to say it. They didn't want to concede that. So they deliberately lost. Just like they for electoral purposes, for fundraising purposes, they deliberately lost. They're not that stupid. Well, maybe they are. That is the question. Was it cupidity or stupidity that led us back to Donald Trump on the Democratic side? Anyway, so people knew about Russia, or should have known. If you're a Republican and we may be about to see a peace treaty between Russia and the United States, or a peaceful agreement, and it's perfectly within the president's right to do that, or president's power, not right, the president's power to do that. He was elected by a majority, and he said what he was going to do, and he may order B-2s to attack Ukrainian positions. I mean, that's like the ultimate thing that he could do, or he could threaten that. He could call Zelensky and says, "Look, I'm sorry, guy. I was elected to stop this war, and I'm going to stop this war because I said I was going to stop this war. And either surrender or we're going to bomb your positions because I can." Barring a mutiny, they will bomb his positions. I mean, unless there's a huge mutiny, yeah, there will be, and to do blackmail, you don't even need a mutiny. You can just tell Zelensky, the American soldiers will do what I say because that's the law, and I'm going to have them bomb your positions. So, if you don't make peace with Russia, now, will Americans bomb those positions? I don't know. That's an interesting thing. Will they mutiny? Will the people stationed in there's a couple of B-2 squadrons. There's one in Kansas, and there's one in the Pacific, and plenty of other items that can in Ramstein. I mean, the way to stop it the only way to really stop it is to and be sure you're stopping, is to boot the United States out of NATO. And everybody would have to agree, including Turkey, to say, you know what, get out. Take your soldiers and go. We're breaking the lease on these military bases. Just go, get out. Trump is too dangerous. You elected him. You had the power to not elect him. You elected him. We can't handle that. Get out. And then it would be less of a, there would be less ability to screw over Ukraine. They could say, they could tell Americans airplanes not to violate their airspace by bombing Ukraine through their airspace, because then it would have to be a long range thing or a naval thing, and they could say that the Americans could move a fleet into the Black Sea, and one aircraft carrier in the Black Sea could destroy Ukraine, or you destroy Ukraine's effectiveness. Yeah. And it wouldn't be an attack on NATO unless they made Ukraine part of NATO, except that if we're not a part of NATO, then we don't have to abide by the NATO treaty. The United States could essentially just, join BRICS. So yeah, that's the power dynamic of this thing. Again, Trump could pull us out of NATO. NATO could expel us, and if we're expelled by NATO, there's no Article 5. They could make Ukraine a part of NATO, and it's just a block that we're not part of. We could still bomb the shit out of Ukraine. In fact, the whole country. We might be at war with NATO, but with that, could NATO threaten us? No. Would we threaten NATO? Probably not. Trump knows he could get away with it, but would it be enough to? Would there be a mass exodus of soldiers? That'd be a mutiny, but there'd be people who said, it's a valid order, democratically arrived at. Because Trump said what he was going to do. So, yeah. If Trump really wants to put his finger on his thumb on the scales in favor of Russia, for whatever reason he does that, he can. Did we know? There's a lot of people who support Trump who didn't know he was such a Russophile, that didn't know he liked Putin. And people were told, and they said, nah, he's not. He's just, well, yeah. He said it a lot. People who figure it out knows that he was a Russian asset, that that it wasn't, well, people weren't told why the perfect phone call was the perfect phone call. And that's the Democrats' fault, because they knew. They didn't want to go there. They thought that they could just get rid of him because he committed dirty tricks. Well, members of Congress have seen dirty tricks. Members of the Senate have seen dirty tricks. They've done dirty tricks. I've done dirty tricks. And that's not a reason to remove a president, that he's done a stupid, dirty trick with a perfect phone call. And apparently, his power to screw over Ukraine, which is what he tried to do, under Hamdi, which is a decision that said if Congress decides the president has less latitude, then under Hamdi, Trump couldn't unilaterally do it. It would be illegal. But that resolution has since expired. There will be a part 3.